Someone else may need to do 2 times a day in kind of an intermittent fasting type of deal. So there's lots of ways to approach it. And then finally,
o sea, no hace falta comer como 6 veces o 5 veces. Si comes 3 veces y cumples con tus calorías, de sobra. O sea, lo que importa es los números a los que llegas, la cantidad de calorías que llegas. Y hombre, obviamente cumplir con tus macronutrientes.
which the supplement industry would tell you is probably down here, is supplements, which is the least important part of this, because often supplements are trying to help you out with this.
O sea, tampoco hay un timing de nutrientes y macronutrientes. O sea, es según lo que a ti te siente bien. Y según como lo tengas pautado. O sea, puedes... Yo he visto a gente comerse un filete de ternera a las 7 de la mañana con arroz. O sea, mientras cumplas con tus requerimientos, pues creo que vas a cumplir igual. Vas a cumplir igual tu dieta y vas a tener el físico que quieres.
Well, possibly that, and possibly this. And occasionally, supplements are useful because they get you to things that you can't get through a pretty normal diet.
La gente sinceramente se cree que los suplementos son mágicos. O sea, en vez de centrarse en lo que funciona, lo que realmente sirve, se centran en las gilipolleces, en los quemagrasas, en la creatina, en cosas así. Cuando los ganadores de masa muscular, o sea, los más gainers, cuando las cosas son mucho más sencillas que esas. Los quemadores de grasas te pueden ayudar. Te puedo decirte un 5%. Un 5% te puede ayudar. Porque tiene cafeína y otros componentes como la pimienta. También hay algunos que tienen pesinefrina. Pero es solo un 1%. O sea, los suplementos es un 10% o un 1% de lo que te va a ayudar. El 90% es el déficit calórico o el superávit calórico. O sea, y si funcionara muy bien, pues hostia, es que no es legal y puede que sea un esteroide.
Like supplementing with creatine makes sense because it's really difficult to get enough meat and it gets cooked off when you cook it.
A ver, eso es verdad, o sea, la creatina es muy difícil conseguir creatina de forma natural. O sea, está muy bien la suplementación de creatina. Porque, yo que sé, para conseguir, 5 gramos, necesitas comerte un kilo de carne. Y por ejemplo, para la gente que es vegana, le viene de lujo porque no tiene que estar... Porque es que yo no conozco ninguna fuente de creatina así que no sea el animal, sinceramente. Si no, que alguien me diga, porque es que no sé qué fuentes de vegetal tienen creatina. Vamos a ver.
So you have to eat a whole bunch of sushi or maybe rare steak in a very large amount to get enough creatine, so it makes more sense to supplement with it. Or things like beta-alanine or many of the various supplements which we'll talk about in that episode. But supplementation, just by, you can tell them its word, is supplementary. Meaning that it is there after everything else. It's not required. It's not a necessity. It is supplementary. So that is something that is the least important out of these nutritional concepts. However, it's still worth talking about. It can make a measurable difference. So, all elements of the pyramid are important. But it's just more about making sure that we talk about the most important things before we talk about the least important things. Because I can't tell you how many articles I run into that are like, here are the 10 good foods and the 10 bad foods, without any mention of what your calorie intake should be, what your macronutrient composition should be. They're pretty much just focusing on the quality of those foods when you look at them in isolation. The problem is we don't eat food in isolation. We have diets. So as I like to really say to my clients and to anyone who will listen, there's no such thing as a good or bad food, but there is such a thing as a good or a bad diet. So, and you can also just get this from the questions you get. Anyone who's involved in the fitness field, or you probably just look in the YouTube comments on this, someone might say something like, should I take the yolks out when I eat eggs? Well, that's kind of missing the whole point. Does it fit with your energy balance? Does it fit in with the fat content you have for the day? So these typical questions that I get where people are asking about this part when they have no idea this context is the whole reason I'm making this pyramid, this guide, and these videos. Okay? So that's kind of the whole guide, why I'm doing it, what we're going to be talking about. Now without further ado, let's get into the big one. Energy balance, calorie intake, and rate of body weight change. Okay? So, steal this pen from behind you guys. Typically, we're going to be running into a couple different goals. We're going to have those who are trying to put on muscle or lean bulk.
Lean bulk.
And if you want to just all out get fat bulk, don't worry about any of this and just eat everything you see. Wouldn't recommend it. And those who are trying to get leaner. And of course, maintain performance. Okay? So, either one of these, if we're talking about someone who's not a rank beginner, who can probably kind of do both at the same time, put on muscle mass while dropping body fat, just a function of nutrient partitioning and training for the first time. So if you're a late stage novice, intermediate, advanced, or anybody like that, this is going to necessitate weight loss or slow weight gain. Okay? To do that, you need to kind of know where your target is in the first place. Where are your maintenance calories? Now, for most people, a good way to just kind of ballpark this, and there's a huge amount of individual variation, you can take your body weight in pounds, multiply it by 10, okay? So like say, for me, for example, let's just say I'm 200, and I'm a little over that, but we'll just make a nice even round number. So that's 2,000 calories. Then we multiply that by an activity multiplier. I'm going to say activity, but it's not just dependent on whether you're a construction worker or sitting at a desk or a full-time athlete or a weekend warrior. This also includes what's called NEAT, or more simply put, subconscious movement, the way our body regulates energy. Because some people will sit on their butt and burn a whole lot more calories than I ever will, just because I have a thrifty metabolism. Basically, the way we regulate energy is our body makes us burn more or less calories, and a lot of that is a function of just fidgeting, postural support or control, and excess subconscious movement. Not something we can really modify. But we're going to multiply it by an activity multiplier, which is going to include subconscious activity. All right? So I would say on the low end, you can probably expect 90% of people to fall in this range. And on the high end, all the way up to something like this. Okay? Mm-hmm. So what that means is that, yes, there are going to be people out there who need to eat 2,600 calories to maintain 200 pounds. Not very much for a 200-pound person. All the way up to, maybe say 4,600 calories, if I did my math right. I'm sure you guys will correct me, for someone who's 200 pounds. So a big variation. And there are people even further outside of those ranges. Now, if that's maintenance, then we need to decide, it's maintenance, what's the goal? If it's to get leaner, we're going to want to be roughly dropping, and I just talked about this in this month's Q&A video on rates of body weight loss, right? We're going to want to lose 0.5 to 1% of body weight per week. Okay? Now what that translates into for this 200-pound male is going to be roughly 1 to 2 pounds per week. Okay? Now, you guys have probably all heard the 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. So if you drop 500 calories per day, you'll drop 1 pound a week. That's a rough estimate to start from. So if you know your maintenance, you can drop somewhere between, in the case someone is 200 pounds, if you're lighter or heavier, it'll be different, minus 500 to 1,000 kcals a day. Okay? And that should get you there. It doesn't all have to be from your nutrition. You can do some cardio. I'm not going to get into that. There's plenty of other videos to watch. We're going to talk big picture stuff here. Okay? On the flip side, we have someone who maybe wants to gain weight, okay? Now, just like when you cut or when you gain weight, it seems to be simple math, like, oh, I go down 500 calories, I go up a pound, or I go up 500 calories, I gain a pound. It doesn't ever work out that way. That whole subconscious activity and metabolic regulation thing that we're talking about means that you may have to eat more than you expect or less than you expect to get the rate of weight loss or the rate of weight gain, which we'll talk about in a second. Point being, it's a good place to start, okay? Now, for gaining, I'm going to give you some different figures, okay? Because anyone who's a natural lifter who's been at it for 3, 4, 5 years will tell you watching muscle grow is like watching paint dry or watching grass grow, while fat loss can happen relatively quickly. You can massively change
Es verdad, el ganar masa muscular es un proceso muy lento.
your physique in a 24-week contest prep. However, it might take 24 months to make a massive difference in a physique on the same level for even a beginner who's been in the gym a year and a half, okay? So, I want to differentiate between beginners, intermediates, and advanced lifters. And I also want to differentiate between males and females, okay? So these are going to be your rate of weight gain per month, okay? We're going to talk gain per month, all right? So for a beginner, I like seeing, say, for boys, 2 to 3 pounds, okay? And for girls, I like to see half that. Okay? Unless you're a very large female. But typically the reason why I'm differentiating is women just don't have the same machinery to build as much muscle mass, and a lot of it has to do with hormonal stuff. So this is probably a good range for gals if you're looking to put on muscle mass. If you go faster than this, you might put on muscle faster, but it won't be this. Okay? Intermediates, we want to slow that down a little bit just because you're closer to your maximal rate of muscle mass. And now we're going to be talking somewhere between 1 to 2 pounds a month. Okay? Females, once again, we're talking maybe half that, so roughly 1 pound a month. Okay? At the advanced level, we're going to be looking for progressive overload and recovery in the gym. So why am I not actually looking for a change in weight? Because I tell you what, if you were to talk to Brian Whitaker or Alberto Nunez or Jeff or these guys, once they've figured out their training, they're in their advanced level, their stage weight might go up or down even 1 or 2 pounds within a 3 or 4 year period. Yeah, you will add stage weight over time, but it's going to be the amount that an intermediate gains in 2 to 3 months, or sorry, 1 or 2 months over the course of 3 to 4 years. So looking at it on a monthly basis just doesn't make sense. What you do want is to make sure that you're recovering from your training and that you're making progressive increases in your training. It means either you're adding more reps or more load over time. You're getting stronger, you're making improvements.
Hablando de esto, que tengo por aquí el... Vais a ver un poco mi correo, pero... Espera. Espera, hablando de esto. Voy a quitar un poco